COCOBOD is doing a lot of things.
Yes.
Are you a rich company?
COCOBOD has its own challenges we are dealing with. Unfortunately, despite all the interventions, the support COCOBOD is rendering to farmers and to our society, we don't unfortunately get the praises, but we get a flag. Yeah, why is COCOBOD not doing this? Why is COCOBOD not doing that? But indeed, COCOBOD is doing a lot.
Thank you very much. You're welcome to the part 2 of our interview with the regulator of the cocoa industry, COCOBOD. I'm having an interview with the head of the Public Affairs Unit, Fiifi Boafo. We started talking about smuggling in the cocoa sector, as well as climate change and the effect of galamsey on Ghana's cocoa production. In our next part, we try and touch on some, if you like, interesting bits about COCOBOD and some of the interventions that they give to the ordinary citizen of this country. The COCOBOD scholarship is one of the things that a lot of people have benefited from, and it's one of the items my colleague said I should ask about when I was preparing for this interview. Fiifi, thank you very much for sitting with us once again. COCOBOD is doing a lot of interventions, doing roads, giving scholarship to people. Is the COCOBOD scholarship still ongoing?
Well, the COCOBOD scholarship has been taken over, for want of better expression, by the free SHS policy.
All right.
Yeah, the COCOBOD scholarship was primarily for secondary education. So was for wards of cocoa farmers in senior high schools. As we speak, the free SHS policy is taking care of secondary education, so that will be duplication of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now that has changed. However, the board has taken a decision to use the funds for a different purpose,
okay.
And the different purpose is to provide basic model schools for cocoa communities. Because we realize that yes, there's free SHS, but and every child is supposed to benefit. But a child has to get to the level of secondary school before the child can benefit from the free SHS policy. So in a situation where you have a child from these communities who is not doing well, who is not interested to go to school, will not even get to the stage where he has to enjoy free SHS. So there's the need for us to get these kids in school, educated, and build them up for secondary school education. So yes, that's what we are doing now. For the fight against child labor, for example, you realize that there are kids who are not in school, not because they do not want to go to school, but the distance they commute, because they stay on the farmstead. The distance they commute from the farmstead to the nearby school is quite a journey.
Yeah.
So the energy to do that is not there. So the child is left in the home.
Yeah.
So this time around, we are trying to have schools closer to them. My understanding of this new arrangement is that we are not just building schools, but a model schools, schools of a decent level where you feel proud to have your child educated there. So you do not necessarily have to be in the urban centers to have access to this infrastructure. One of the things we've also realized that it is even difficult to have teachers volunteering to go to these communities to teach. But if you have a very decent staff bungalow, then the teacher will be happy to go there, because those who even teach in these very remote schools, they'll prefer to live in a nearby town, travel to the school the next day. If you are that soon, they are child buying, or maybe they will get to school very late, exhausted and all that. But if you have them close, then they will be able to help. So yes, that's what the policy is now going forward.
So when is this going to start?
I think now the board has given approval, so the necessary work is being done. We are compiling schools from all these communities, so that compilation is ongoing. And immediately that is done, very soon there will be a launch of it, and then we'll roll it out.
Okay, I'm sure people will be excited by it, especially the cocoa farmers.
Oh yeah. In fact, we had what delayed us was the fact that we had to do thorough stakeholder engagement, because there were different proposals as to what to use the money for. Different things came about. There are those who suggested it should go to tertiary education. There are those who suggested we should do STEM with it. There are those who said we should do specialized education in the area of agriculture and research into the cocoa industry. But after the consultation, I think a lot more people within the stakeholder engagement were of the view that a better basic education system will be more beneficial compared to the others if you put them on a scale. Yeah.
On that topic and on that note, I want to link it with the international report about Ghana using child labor on their cocoa farms, and for which reason maybe there should be sanctions in terms of the foreign countries buying our cocoa. Do you think this, by a long stretch, is going to eliminate that notion?
There are a number of things we are doing in dealing with the perception of child labor. We say perception because we do not subscribe to how we've been described as a country that is allowing child labor to happen. But if you have these kids in school, I think the methodology that have also been used in arriving at some of the conclusions is a bit problematic. So you go to a typical rural community, you ask the child, did you go to school today? He said, no, I did not go to school today. Where do you live? You live on the farmstead. Yeah. That's child labor. But genuinely, the child is not in any way involved. But that, a child of school-going age is supposed to be in school. Yeah. So if that child is in school, then it helps in dealing with that perception which we have to deal with. Of course, COCOBOD has also rolled out recently our cocoa management system. The cocoa management system has a full database of every cocoa farmer in our country. And your dependents, your farm hands, everybody involved in the farmer business has been captured. Of course, the polygon maps of all the cocoa farms has also been captured. So we are able to tell that Daniel, Fiifi, Kweku, Kwabna, Efo, Yauvi are the people who are involved in the farm. Okay. So if you extrapolate, you'll be able to tell that, okay, these are the people working. Then there's a possibility that there's a shortfall in farm hands. There may be kids involved. Okay. So let's go and investigate. It helps in determining. So that's another thing. Of course, the issue about deforestation, because we have the maps of every farm, we should be able to tell if there's a farm that is within the protected forest zones. So it takes away that responsibility from us. And this cocoa management system is what has given us the platform for the rolling out of the Cocoa Farmer Pension Scheme, which about a week ago we started registering farmers here.
So the pension scheme is supposed to what? Give some respite to cocoa farmers when they retire?
The pension scheme is to give me the authority to convince Daniel that it is better to go into cocoa farming than to work just with GhanaWeb. Okay. Because one of the things farmers have complained is that after all the work you do as a cocoa farmer, if it's time for you to go on retirement, there's nothing to rely on. Right. How beneficial is it for me to be in such an enterprise? But if the pension is there, it helps. And of course, as a human being, it gets to a stage where there's the need for you to say that I have done enough, and then there's the need for me to retire. What are you retiring to? Okay. Is there something available? And it's natural that when you age, that's where you have all this, and those problems come up. So yeah, it gives you something to rely on. So yes, the farmer pension scheme is to encourage people, the youth, to go into cocoa farming, and also to ensure that farmers, after the meritorious service to our country, they are also retiring to something decent and have a decent lifestyle and not becoming responsibility and a burden to their kids.
COCOBOD is doing a lot of things.
Yes.
Are you a rich company?
COCOBOD has its own challenges we are dealing with. Unfortunately, despite all the interventions, the support COCOBOD is rendering to farmers and to our society, we don't unfortunately get the praises, but we get a flag. Yeah, why is COCOBOD not doing this? Why is COCOBOD not doing that? But indeed, COCOBOD is doing a lot for our farmers and then also for our society. Unfortunately, because of the plurality of media now, also using the media platforms to also assess and to tell your story becomes difficult. These days when there's a story and in the morning I have to speak to radio stations, I could have about 100 radio stations calling and asking for an interview. How many stations can you talk to?
Yeah.
You have the online, the television station, and of course, people who are using the social media platform.
Yeah.
So it's also difficult to even tell your story. But of course, and you have different means of also reaching out to other people. Yeah, so it becomes difficult for us to fully tell our story. But then, of course, we are still working and finding means of telling the story. COCOBOD is not rich. COCOBOD resources is basically the amount of money that is realized from cocoa sale after giving the farmers their share of the FOB price, and the amount that comes to COCOBOD, that is what is used for all the things I've talked about and more.
One of the things people want to see COCOBOD do is, what do we do with our raw cocoa beans? What is the future looking like? The last international news that also painted Ghana as using child labor said these children even work on the farm and they haven't even seen a chocolate in their lives or haven't tasted chocolates before. Are we going to reach a point where we are really working on the final product and not just selling it off?
You know, the discussion about whether the children of cocoa farmers have enjoyed chocolate, I do not think it should be premised on the fact that they produce cocoa, so automatically they must enjoy chocolate. Yeah, my father probably could work as a tailor, but it doesn't mean that the things he sew, I'm supposed to wear them.
I mean, I feel people feel like, I mean, if you are working on it, I mean, it's small. You know.
Yeah, but you see, the question is, so if I produce cassava,
yeah,
I may not eat fufu.
Okay.
So the fact that I produce cassava doesn't mean automatically I am supposed to enjoy it. But for me, the argument is the health and the nutritional benefits we derive from cocoa is the more reason why the children of cocoa farmers must enjoy it.
Okay.
Because there's a lot more they can get as an individual, as a child, by eating the chocolate or taking the cocoa products. So it is not just because I am producing it, so I must necessarily enjoy it.
Okay.
But it is because you can get a lot more. The flavanols and all the things you get in cocoa. The fact that it helps in improving your cognitive performance.
Right.
The fact that it helps in dealing with a lot of diseases in its prevention. That's the more reason why you should take it, not because you produce it. Yeah, I may produce something, but hey, that's not what I want to. Fiifi Boafo.
Yeah.
I don't like chocolate.
Maybe the children want it, but they don't have access to it.
Yeah,
because
I don't like chocolate, but of course I like other cocoa products like the raw cocoa powder. I prefer that. But the fact that I have a cocoa farm or I work at COCOBOD doesn't mean I'm supposed to.
Right, I get the point. I get the point. But I mean, I'm sure it is your wish and hope that because of the benefits, nutritional benefits, these children would have access to. In fact,
for me, I have a responsibility. I now chair the national committee tasked with the responsibility of improving cocoa consumption. So for me, I believe strongly that every individual in Ghana must consume cocoa products.
Right, right.
I am happy that if you look at the effort we've put in recent years, our per capita consumption has increased by 100%.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot more we can do. There's a reason why when you go to a restaurant, you are not asked whether you want tea or coffee. You should be asked, do you want a cocoa beverage or a chocolate drink? We want to see that. If I'm getting a dessert from a restaurant, it must include chocolate product.
Right.
If you visit a hotel, you should be given a chocolate product as part of your treats. If I enter into any hospitality center, you should be given a taste of Ghana. And the taste of Ghana is a cocoa product because Ghana is known for cocoa. So if I'm given a treat, the treat must include a cocoa product. If someone gets into Ghana as part of the visit, the tourism infrastructure available to us, there should be something within the cocoa value chain. If someone leaves Ghana, the fact that you were in Ghana, if you are getting back to your country, you must take away something from Ghana. And if you're taking away something from Ghana, definitely it must include a chocolate from Ghana.
Okay.
So for us, there's a lot more we can achieve within the space, apart from just processing the cocoa. Usually we complain as a people that yes, we produce the cocoa. If we look at the cocoa value chain, that's over $100 to $120 billion.
Yeah.
How much do we get as a people? If you do the calculation, it's worrying. But the people who benefit, if we are able to expand, do the processing, it is not just the farmers. If, for example, Fiifi Boafo, I have a company that is into cocoa processing, and I want to advertise. I come to GhanaWeb and I advertise. You are also beneficiary of the value chain.
Yeah.
The person who is going to do the marketing has a business.
Yeah.
Those who do the logistics and the transport, they have a business within the value chain. The person who has a company that is into branding or packaging, he also has a business and is part of the value chain. So we have a lot of people who are going to be beneficiaries of the value chain if we are able to go there. So that's the more reason why we are stepping out our campaign. We are advocating for consumption of our chocolate product because yes, it will give you good health. It will build you as an individual, but it need to also help you in getting a job.
Yeah. Because
yes, if someone decides to have a small setup where he's selling chocolate product, I think there's a company called Chocolate Soraya. All the young men and the women who work there have been employed. Where they get their products from, those who are producing milk will get a business out of it. Yeah. Those who are producing sugar will get a business out of it. So there's a lot more we can achieve. Unfortunately, one day I met a friend who was very harsh in his critique of COCOBOD. And it was following a story that had been published that there's a platform that had been created by a Chinese that was being used to dry cocoa. Mm. And he felt like, why is COCOBOD not doing this? And he went on and on. So after listening to him, I just said to my friend that, I know you are an engineer, mm-hmm. and that's basically your field. What stops you from creating something like that?
And come to COCOBOD and say, this is something that we can work with.
And COCOBOD can help you in getting the farmers to procure it. So we usually expect that, yes, because there's a regulator, there's an institution that has the responsibility of doing these things. They are supposed to put together engineers, they are supposed to put together all these people to do that. But it's an opportunity. The avenue is that the fact that we produce cocoa, what can you also do within the value chain as a business person or as someone who has an idea that can help grow the industry and you take advantage and get a business out of it.
Right, right. So that's Fiifi Boafo, the head of public affairs at COCOBOD, the regulator of the Ghana's cocoa production. We've been talking about a myriad of issues. We're into the final home stretch. We'll go for a short break. When we return, we'll wrap up our conversation on Ghana's cocoa production sector. Stay with us. We're back after this break. We're into our final home stretch, final 10 minutes of our interview with Fiifi Boafo, who is with COCOBOD, discussing a lot of things about COCOBOD and Ghana's cocoa production this year and the last few years. So Fiifi, quick question. Would Ghana meet its projection in terms of cocoa production this year?
One of the things I do not usually enjoy participating is discussing production figures during the year. The reason why I do so is that this is a market that is largely speculative. So if I tell you we are producing 800,000 metric tons already, we have done 600,000 metric tons, or we have sold 500,000 metric tons, then the market can predict you that you have 200,000 metric tons, and based on that, they beat you to the price.
Okay.
So it is one very uncomfortable topic for us, and I usually, when there's a discussion about production numbers and then sales, my trading room people come like, Charlie, this is a no-go area for us. So yes, I know the media enjoys that. Of course, it's news like, oh yeah, Ghana will meet its production targets. So it's the news bit of it is there. But you ask yourself the implications or the effects of it. There are some media houses, they are snooping around to know how much have you sold and all that and put it out there. But the question you need to ask yourself is that, who is the beneficiary of that, putting out that news?
Okay.
Yes. So yes, we have a number of challenges this year, but what I can assure you is that our production numbers will be able to meet our responsibilities to our lenders and then the farmers for the year.
Okay. So finally, what would you say to farmers, to prospective farmers, now that we are losing our farmlands to Galamsey? What must be done? I was worrying that you said there are no major large-scale farming in the country. What can we do? What can government do to help COCOBOD to achieve all of these things?
The reason why we have a challenge with the having large-scale cocoa farming is largely also due to the land tenure system we have in our country, because the interest there very intricate, and who is prepared to give out his land for cocoa farming and all that. So that's a challenge we have. But apart from that, I think the people who also do have the resources to do the large-scale farmers are usually absentee farmers like myself. So we are in Accra, and you give money for people to have the put together the cocoa farm. You barely have time to visit. So you are at the mercy of the farm hands. So it's a bit difficult. But if we have resourceful people who are prepared to go in there and start taking it as a business, then we are getting there. Recently, there's one business person we've been engaging to see how COCOBOD can support that company in establishing a huge cocoa farm. And if you look at what they are looking...
Do you have the land already?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we've had, our research team has been on the land, they've taken samples and all that. I'm constrained in giving details as to where they intend setting up and all that. But clearly, you can tell that that is the way to go.
Would that be a game changer?
It will have a huge impact.
Okay.
It will have a very serious impact in terms of our production numbers. And we have people who are doing large-scale farming, because the commitment and sometimes the way our smallholder farmers go about it makes it difficult, because usually you have someone say that, I feel so, you ask the size of the farm. It's a very small farm, and it is difficult to rely on that small farm to feed the household the entire year. But if it is a business where you have a huge farm, and then you have the investment also going in there, because if it is a smallholder farmer who is producing just 3-4 bags, the person has to take care of the home. So if you ask that farmer to invest some of the money that has been made from the business into the activity, it's difficult for the farmer to do so. Not because he's not prepared to invest into his business. I understand. The resources are very small, so it's difficult for them to invest. But if it's a business where you have a lot of resources coming in, then you can invest into the business and make some good business venture out of cocoa farming.
So lastly, if there are rich people who have the means and want to venture into cocoa farming, if they reach out to COCOBOD, can you support them?
COCOBOD will be very excited to work with such persons who have the means and the resources. One thing that is guaranteed is that COCOBOD will give you seedlings for free. COCOBOD will have the extension staff who will be readily available to support you at the various districts. Our people, friends, people, random people I meet who come to me and said, Fiifi, I want to go into cocoa farming, this is my area. And then quickly I call the district office and then I link them up. And then the next time you meet the person, says, oh, your people were there, now I've started.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so yes, just get in touch with us, let us know, and our seed production division will be prepared to produce the seedlings for the church staff to help you in then starting your cocoa farm. It's the way to go.
Right.
When are you starting the farm?
Very soon. Thank you very much, Fiifi. It's been a very enlightening conversation, and I'm sure for those of you who are watching, you've learned one or two things and how to also participate in Ghana's cocoa value chain. It's one of our biggest revenue earners, and we need more people, more educated people to enter into that space. My name has been Daniel Oduro. It's been another edition of The Lowdown here on GhanaWeb TV. My guest has been Fiifi Boafo with COCOBOD. Thank you very much, Fiifi.
Thank you, Daniel.
We're back same time with another edition of the show. Until then, it's bye for now.